So we've been seeing that, as far as sound is concerned, we can think about how some verbs behave in terms of whether they refer to a plural person or a singular person. ER verbs in the singular just sound without the ER ending. So we have, for example, demander, which means to ask or to ask for, like demand, demander. And then for the je, tu, il, elle versions, how does demander sound?
Demande.
Demande, demande. And our E verbs in the singular for I, you, he, she in sound lose their ending and the consonant before it. So we have to sell, vendre, and then for I, for you, for he or she, for our singular people, how does vendre sound?
Vendre.
Bon, very good. And we saw how for the plural forms, ER and RE verbs behave the same. So for they, for example, for they, both ER and RE verbs both use E and T, which whilst this ending isn't pronounced, it does make us hear the consonant before it. So they ask is
Il demande.
il demande. So this version for the ER verbs sound just like the rest. And we've seen that RE verbs are going to do the same. They're going to use this ENT. So how would they sell be?
Il vend.
Il vend. So the they version of the RE verbs is not like the rest of the RE verb versions, no? Il or elle vend. But we can think that RE verbs and ER verbs for the plural behave the same. And this also counts for we, which is also plural, no? ER and RE verbs again behave the same. So for both ER and RE verbs, we have on as an ending for we. That's O-N-S. On.
On.
So we remove our to ending on the verb and we add on, O-N-S. So how would that sound with demander, for example?
Demandons.
Demandons, demandons. And the word for we is nous, N-O-U-S, nous.
Non.
So we ask, we're asking.
Nous demandons.
Nous demandons. So this is the first verb ending we've come across that actually makes a sound. No, the rest of the verb endings just are telling us what to pronounce and what not to pronounce of the verb. But this one, on, has its own sound. Demander, demandons. What was to sell again?
Vendre.
Vendre. And we sell?
Nous vendons.
Nous vendons. How is I ask from demander?
Je demande.
Why demande? What do you add for je with ER verbs?
The
An E. Although we don't even really need to think about that to speak. All we need to think about is how with ER verbs, we're just removing the ER ending off of demander in sound.
Je demande.
Je demande. So before we use a verb, we need to know how it ends, no? Demander, okay, it's an ER verb, so I'm just going to lose the air ending, demande. If we say, I ask myself, we get the meaning of I wonder. So myself was the same as me. So how would you say that? I wonder, I ask myself.
Je me demande.
Je me demande. The word for if is si in French, if, si.
Si.
I wonder if she wants to come. I ask myself if she wants to come.
Je me demande si elle veut venir.
Very good. Je me demande si elle veut venir. We ask.
Nous demandons.
Nous demandons. And nous is also the word for us or ourselves. So if you wanted to say we wonder, we ask ourselves. We wonder, we ask ourselves.
Nous demandons.
Nous demandons. We wonder if you want to sell it. We are wondering if you want to sell it.
Nous demandons si tu le veux vendre. Tu veux le vendre.
Very good. nous nous demandons si tu veux le vendre. So we ask is nous demandons and they ask is
Il demande.
il demande. And we know that in the plural, ER and RE verbs behave the same. So we sell is
Nous vendons. Nous vendons.
nous vendons. And they sell
Ils vendent.
ils vendent. Very good. So we may have a possible explanation as to why ENT is silent on the end of verbs and not generally in the language. And that's because ENT, on, would sound very much like ONS, on, and that might get confusing. So whilst in the plural, ER verbs and RE verbs behave the same, we know that in the singular, they behave a little differently. What was to think?
Penser.
Penser. I think.
Je pense.
Je pense. So we just remove the ER ending in sound, no? Penser, pense. Je pense. To understand is like to comprehend. Comprendre.
Comprendre.
So this verb, of course, ends RE. So how would you say I understand?
Je comprends.
Je comprends. Good. So we get je pense from penser. We just remove the ER ending. But with RE verbs, we remove a little more than that. Je comprends. You think.
Tu penses.
Tu penses. You understand.
Tu comprends.
Tu comprends. She thinks.
Elle pense.
Elle pense. She understands.
Elle comprend.
Elle comprend. So these different forms know that we're seeing they're spelled differently, but we don't really need to worry about that to speak French. No, we can just revise the written forms as and when we come across them, and remember that ER verbs in the singular are pronounced without the ER ending, and RE verbs in the singular are pronounced without the RE ending and the consonant before if they have one there. What was to find?
Trouver.
Trouver, trouver. And to lose?
Perdre.
Perdre. He finds?
Il trouve.
Il trouve. He loses?
Il perd.
Il perd. No, perdre without the ending and the D before. Without the RE ending and the D before. Il perd. They find?
Il trouve.
Il trouve. And they lose?
Il perd.
Ils perdent. So here in the plural, trouver and perdre, they're behaving the same. No, ils trouvent, ils perdent. And we find?
Nous trouvons.
Nous trouvons. And we lose?
Nous perdons.
Nous perdons. So again, in the plural, trouver and perdre, behaving the same. Trouve, trouvons, perdre, perdons.